I think that the worst thing about Dragon Age Veilguard is that BioWare uh, didn't want to uh, ban, lose, don't use uh, um, Frostbite engine, because Frostbite was engine created by one of the EA companies, and company is a very EA is a very big company who produced because this is the company which mostly own other studios and produce games created by other studios owned by EA. And Frostbite is an engine created for from one of those studios, Dice, and it was created for FPS games, specifically for Battlefield series, and EA advised other companies belonged to her to use this engine because it's cheaper to use that, for example, other engines like Unreal and Unity and other engines. And I think it was a mistake for BioWare to use this engine, who because this engine was created for not only for FPS games, for a very specific FPS games, multiplayer, many uh, people fight engine, like Battlefield series, which is a very specific FPS game. And in RPG games, I heard that they need to create, for example, such simple tools as for inventory, for items, for characteristics for items, for leveling your character, and so on. And we see as players that that Frostbite engine is horrible. For RPG games is horrible. When you played, for example, I finished Mass Effect trilogy 1, 2, and 3, and Mass Effect trilogy was on Unreal Engine 3, and I finished this game 5, 6 times. And I am a very big fan of Mass Effect series, to the point that I would say that Mass Effect trilogy is the best RPG game ever produced. But when I tried to play Mass Effect Andromeda, this new engine, this new because Frostbite engine and Unreal Engine, they are completely different engines, and every person who will see game in this engine and in Unreal Engine, in Frostbite engine, almost immediately discern that they are completely different engines, completely different gameplay, completely different scenes, characters, graphics, and so on. And to be honest, I couldn't finish almost the basic quests of Andromeda, because, for example, map was so difficult to navigate that it had layers. So the map had layers: top layer, middle layer, and ground layer, bottom layer. And I didn't even know where am I on the map, and where is the quest giver, where is the quest location, and so on. So it was really even difficult for me, as veteran player of Mass Effect series, and veteran player of many RPG games, to even finish the simplest quests. And I think I achieved in Mass Effect Andromeda maybe fourth levels, something like that. It was a horrible experience, and I didn't know why they they use this completely different engine. Because, for example, when I played then later in 2019 um, Anthem, of course, Anthem was also a flop for a BioWare, but Anthem was a shooter looter game. And when you played this game, you saw that yes, that these characters, that the shooting, flying, defeating bosses, it's really interesting. It's really on the pair with what this engine is able to do. And of course, the disadvantages of Anthem was different than just engine issues. They were more complicated. But then after that, uh, I even played earlier Mass Effect Dragon Age Inquisition, and Inquisition was rather good game. It even won in 2014 best game of the year. But I saw that something is wrong. That Frostbite is not for RPG games. Completely, it's not. Even the basic things like quests, items, characteristics of items, inventory, managing your team, using skills by your companions. It's out of touch, completely out of touch. When you, for example, compare Dragon Age Origins, first Dragon Age, and Dragon Age Inquisition, when you compare Mass Effect Trilogy in Unreal Engine 3 and then Mass Effect Andromeda in Frostbite Engine, completely different experiences. And those in Frostbite engines were far worse. And now I see that Veilguard was the newest Dragon Age game, which will be published in 3 weeks from now, at the last day of October. And I see that this Frostbite engine is not only too bright, too colorful, but it is uh, this engine is really ugly because, for example, it created very well distant vistas. So distant vistas like waterfalls, clouds, trees in a distance, and so on. But all of those things, monsters, demons, your characters, which are very close to you, they look bad. They look unpleasant. They look aesthetically completely unpleasant. For example, when I saw Alistar, famous character from Dragon Age series, in Dragon Age Inquisition, even though Inquisition was created in 2014, Frostbite is much more advanced and newer engine that engine used by Dragon Age Origins, which is Eclipse. All characters, but specifically Alistar character in this case look far more better, handsome. Um, all in this character was far better in Dragon Age Origins than in Dragon Age Inquisition. All face, eyes, nose, lips, everything, the body, the proportions, and so on. And I see that Frostbite engine is an ugly engine for RPG games. It's good when you, for example, have these simple missions like you have tank, you have airplane or some transporter, and you shoot to other characters. And this is fine. This looks very well, very good. But in our case, when you need to focus on characteristics of characters, on their real assets as specific characters, as wardens and so on, as demons, as mages, as thieves, all of this looks really ugly. It looks it looks it looks completely like created from an AI. Like AI would create, for example, demons in Dragon Age Veilguard. They are just shining lamps and lanterns, which are shiny. And this is all. This is all about demons in Dragon Age Veilguard. And I saw all these vistas in Veilguard, and they are, because they are too colorfully bright, and all of this is almost unrecognizable as a whole. So all of this is so shiny and so bright that you cannot discern certain concrete objects. For example, clouds from trees, trees from leaves, leaves from the ground, ground from the animals, animals from the monsters, monsters from our characters, and so on. And it is really tragic that game, which was created for 10 years. So Dragon Age, Dragon Age Inquisition 2014, Dragon Age Veilguard 2024. It it look it looks worse than Dragon Age Origins from 2009. It looks worse. And I'm shocked to the point that managers in BioWare didn't saw that Frostbite engine is completely not for this type of games. For RPG games, it's completely not for these types of games. This engine is really is like it's not very thorough. When you, for example, watch for a demon, for a specific demon, you see that in Dragon Age, because the demons are they live in a some kind of a hierarchical order, and you saw that each of the demons which you encounter in Dragon Age Origins, it was completely different demon than the other demons. Completely different character, voice, movements. Completely different um, aesthetics of even each specific thing, like eye, lip, arm, weapon, spells, abilities, and so on. And here it's so completely random. It's so completely, because they created Veilguard like Mass Effect, but in Mass Effect it was created on a better engine, a better looking engine, Unreal Engine. For example, when you see Unreal Engine 5 and Frostbite, I would say that Unreal Engine is just beautifuler. It's just beautifuler and better in this way. So, for example, I see, because I didn't know what was the difference between Borderlands 3 and other Borderlands. So, for example, Borderlands 2 and Borderlands prequel, because Borderlands prequel were the newest, and then they created Borderlands 3. And Borderlands 3, I think, is the first Borderlands created on Unreal Engine 5. And you see that, for example, the Borderlands 3 have issues with, for example, that it is too shiny, it is too bright, but as gameplay, as fight, as characters, it's far more better than other Borderlands games. It's beautiful in this way. When you see the movements of skags, even, for example, we have female bandits here. They shout, they scream, they move in a very cool, aesthetically pleasing way. So Unreal Engine 5 is the go-to engine for most of the games today, I would say, and specifically for RPG games. And this Frostbite engine it sucks on different occasions. Because, for example, okay, I saw in Andromeda that characters, for example, movements sometimes are more advanced than what I saw on Unreal Engine 3. But other than that, their mimics, their lips, their eyes, all of this was so generically random, unpleasing. When you, for example, compare scenes from from, let's say, Mass Effect 3 in 2012, or even scenes in 2010 Mass Effect 2, and you compare it to the scenes of Mass Effect Andromeda from 2017, those in Andromeda are far worse. Far worse. And even using abilities, using skills, even though, for example, shooting is a little bit action friendly in Andromeda, it's worse as an RPG advanced technique. So for example, I saw that in Veilguard, it's too much action attack friendly game. And for example, because Mass Effect series is a fantasy series, so for example, you have lasers, you have beams, you have weapons, and so on. And Dragon Age series is medieval RPG game. So you use melee weapons. You use melee weapons, and they cannot be as action impacted as in Mass Effect series. And here in Veilguard, you see that this character is attacking all those demons, other cultists, and so on, and it just looks ugly. It looks ugly, even though in a way that it looks completely normal and random. So it's not even ugly. It's just too random, too gray to be satisfactory. When you, for example, use an ability in Dragon Age Origins, you saw that, for example, you saw this cool in Polish it's czcionka. You see these letters of this ability used. They were, for example, yellowish, and you saw that your character put different poses, different, for example, uses of its hands to to use this ability. So it was very satisfactory that your characters, even they can use these advanced techniques. And for example, when Alistair used his final ability from Templar tree, and he used this fist, which was slamming from the heavens to your opponents and stunning them. And then there was this magical circle afterwards. It was really magnificent to show these final abilities, which were shiny and glimmering and glittering and so on, but only for just couple of seconds. And only the best abilities were shiny, were colorful, and so on. But other were just very heavy, very impactful. That you saw that even in Mass Effect series, because in Mass Effect series you could, for example, use abilities of your friend of your allies, but you cannot control them. And in Mass Effect series, your companions use their abilities almost perfectly. They sometimes even use their abilities better than you. So it was very impactful even in first Mass Effect when you played with Liara and with Tali. Tali was this engineer character with mechanical abilities, and Liara was a biotic. So biotics is like magic for Mass Effect universe. And when they use these abilities, for example, Liara use throw, and for example, you saw couple of Geth's robots throw into the air in a, I don't know, in a 30 meters long span, and they were they were, for example, then falling very very slowly, just you can kill them. And you saw those impacts that these abilities of Liara and Tali used even in the first Mass Effect, which was the worst from the gameplay perspective and from the graphical perspective, because it was published in 2016 on the consoles and in 2007 on the on PC computers. And even the abilities in first Mass Effect they were almost perfect. Almost perfect. For example, sometimes Liara could even lift a gigantic armaments of the Geths. So it looked marvelously when these gigantic tanks of Geths were floating, and it even worked on the strongest, biggest tanks. I don't know if they even on the I think even on the strongest of the Goliaths and on the prime Geths and on the biggest tanks, it even worked. Yes, I'm sure that it worked even on the strongest tanks, and you just saw a aesthetically beautiful, pleasing przeżycie in Polish. So you have this feeling that you play in a poetic, not pathetic, poetic, unexpected, epic journey and epic fight. Because, for example, in Mass Effect 1, they have these monsters called treasures, and they were gigantic. They were gigantic, very, very tough to defeat. They were popping from the ground. They could kill your all teams in one smash or in one shot. And you were amazed that, for example, these monsters were so big, and so they have these special effects and even sound effects, beautiful for your speakers, for your headphones, and so on. And here in Veilguard, you see that those characters are fighting with these demons, and the demons just suck. They just suck even as demons, because in Dragon Age Origins, demons, they only mostly dwell in the Fade. So the Fade is like undead realm, the realm of spirits and specifically demons, because not all the spirits of the Fate are evil, but the demons are drawn to humans and other beings, and they want to attack them, to possess them, and to go through the veil to natural world. But every demon who you encounter have completely different, even different agenda on his mind. So they weren't just mindless beasts who were attacking everyone. They even have different agendas on their own, and completely different look, completely different abilities, and so on and so on. And in Veilguard they use completely like AI created, like BioWare was so lazy that they just used Chat GPT AI. Let us create another Dragon Age game. And the worst part is that even these beautiful vistas of Veilguard, they are so their colors are so bright, and the textures and the geometrical figures of all these items and objects are so bizarre and so podobne. So they are almost like trees are here, rocks are here, rivers are here, and you cannot discern every specific item. Because, for example, in Dragon Age Origins, when you were traveling to the Orosmar, to the kingdom of the dwarves, it looked completely different than Brazilian forest. It was like you were on the another continent and another world. Brazilian forest, completely different colors, completely different ground terrain, uh, of course music and so on, and Orosmar, Dwarven Kingdom, completely different. And here in Veilguard, everything looks similar. Even those magnificent city of Minathros, the biggest country, the most powerful country still, Tevinter Imperium. Vistas look good, they look encouraging, but all of this looks completely out of soul. It looks completely soulless in a way. So this is my biggest complaint, that we saw characters. They are created badly, without proportions, with big heads, with these funny, goofy behaviors, completely not participating and knowing that Dragon Age series is a dark fantasy game. It's not even high fantasy like Baldur's Gate, it's dark fantasy game. And all those goofy characters, they are completely out of touch with Dragon Age series universe. And this world looks completely random okay. And for me, it's random okay to the point that I'm not completely interested in playing these games. And I think that that Frostbite because for example, when you created Dragon Age Inquisition, it was on Frostbite, one game of the year. But then you have two games consequently in the same engine, uh, Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem, and they were all a flop. They were all disgraced by players. So you see that this Frostbite engine is not for your games. You had Unreal Engine 3 and now you have Unreal Engine 5 and it looks amazing, and next games of BioWare should be created in this beautiful looking engine. A whole Mass Effect trilogy, even the remaster version, is on Unreal Engine 3 and it still looks maybe not amazingly good, but it still looks good. It still looks good. And Mass Effect 1 was from 2006. And it still looks okay, and Mass Effect 2 and 3, they still looks good. And now you have advanced engine, Unreal Engine 5, create games and specifically RPG games, because if you choose Frostbite engine and you see that the simplest things like levels, characters, abilities, items, characteristics of monsters, characteristics of your characters, behavior of characters is completely out of touch, is completely not controllable, is completely random, it's completely not for RPG games, specifically those who are focused on very tactical play style. So let me know in the comments what do you think about this new trailer, because guys, I saw these new trailers of Veilguard and I watched maybe 3 minutes of them, because I saw that these items, these inventories, they are so random, they are so okay AI generated that I wasn't interested in watching them full. And I am a fan of Dragon Age series. I finished Dragon Age Origins 3 times and in a very thorough gameplay. And I'm still playing it as another character. And I see that, for example, using of abilities, using of even spells, it was really amazing in this game. It was really amazing. It was not random. Even in Dragon Age 2, we see, because it was still on an Eclipse engine, but it looked completely different than Dragon Age Origins. For me, worse. And using of abilities, using of skills was completely without any specific impact on my characters. And in Dragon Age Origins, you see that if you are a high level character, the impact of your spells, of your abilities is completely different that when you are on a first, second, third level. Completely different. Completely even different gameplay. So let me know in the comments what do you think about soon be released Dragon Age Veilguard, and if Frostbite engine, because for me Frostbite engine is the main issue of flop of recent BioWare games. For me this is the reason. Do you think this is the reason, or we can find another reasons why these games flopped? And I think unfortunately that Veilguard will flop also.